Okay, I am Morgan Littlefield, and this is my Biofuel video project. Today we're going to be talking about what butanol is and how it is used in society today. So what is butanol, and how does this type of biofuel differ from those of the first, second, and third generations? Butanol is an industrial chemical that is referred to as a superior liquid fuel. This energy source is considered to be a fourth-generation biofuel, meaning genetically engineered microorganisms are used to photosynthesize carbon dioxide into fuel. Butanol is growing rapidly in popularity due to its sustainability and level of renewability in terms of carbon sources. There have been recent technological advancements made in the biotechnology and process engineering fields. These advancements are now being utilized to research this biofuel and pursue the possibility of converting an abundance of biomass into butanol. And this picture depicts the fermentation process of butanol and the products that can be produced from this energy source, like gasoline additives, jet fuel, and diesel fuel. How is butanol cultivated? So when comparing the production of a fourth generation biofuel to those of other generations, many differences can be identified. For example, first generation biofuels are derived from edible materials and they produce usable energy in the form of food rather than in a fuel source. Second generation biofuels are made from non-edible materials such as agricultural residues that are grown for biofuel purposes. Third generation biofuels are those that are derived from aquatic biomass. And fourth generation biofuels, like butanol, are produced through engineered plants and microorganisms. Butanol is cultivated through the anaerobic fermentation of sugar substrates. This process is possible through the utilization of various species of solventogenetic Clostridia. However, as time and biotechnology have progressed, scientists are finding that these microorganisms are not powerful enough to source the natural production of butanol. Not only are there efficiency problems, but also environmental ones regarding the sustainability and how economically proficient these species are in producing butanol. So, what are the connections between butanol and the energy processes we learned in lab? As mentioned in an earlier slide, butanol is made through anaerobic fermentation. We learned about the fermentation process in lab. We learned that it is a metabolic process where microorganisms convert carbohydrates into other substances. Although the production of butanol does this without the presence of oxygen, fermentation can complete the same process utilizing oxygen. Some similarities between photosynthesis, cellular respiration, and fermentation is that they all have the common goal of energy conversion. They require and generate ATP, and they involve electron transfers and the use of electron carriers. The image depicts the fermentation process of butanol, ethanol, and acetone. What is the developmental status of butanol? How developed is our understanding of butanol, and what can be done to further this understanding? The current process of butanol fermentation and production has many limitations. These limitations can be defined as the high cost of fermentation substrate inhibition, low butanol concentration because of low solvent tolerance, sluggish growth, and low cell density achievable during solventogenic fermentation. It is because of these highly influential factors that technological advancements are being made and research is being poured into finding a more efficient way to produce butanol. There have been attempts made by researchers to identify a better process through studies including microbial strain development for improved butanol titer intolerance, development of efficient in situ product, recovery technologies to overcome the butanol toxicity to fermentating microorganisms, and the application of differing fermentation strategies to increase the overall cell density. And then, depending on the individual, the understanding of butanol and the prominent role it can play in the future of renewable energy can be greatly enhanced. So, those that don't have any background knowledge of butanol will probably not understand its influence and how much of a positive impact it can have on our environment and the process of transportation. So, does butanol contribute to the carbon footprint? Butanol can be used as a biofuel to decrease the greenhouse gas emissions from transportation. Transportation is responsible for 14% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. Biofuels like butanol are becoming a saving grace in the sense that they are a fuel source that reduce transportation-related emissions. Unfortunately, the transition from fossil fuels to biofuels is one that requires a complex and heightened level of engine technology. Biofuels have a term known as a blend well, which is the maximum amount of the biofuel that can be used in a vehicle. For example, ethanol has a blend wall of 10%, making it dependent on the typology of the transport fleet. However, butanol is now considered as a drop-in biofuel that can be used in gasoline engines without the possibility of a blend wall limitation. Biobutanol fuel is the drop-in researchers are studying and attempting to integrate into engines to better the environment in which we live and to reduce the impacts of the carbon footprint. So what is the economic impact of butanol, and should butanol be considered a positive factor in the well-being of our economy today? So like with anything, butanol will have its advantages and disadvantages. These advantages include reducing the carbon footprint, reducing overall greenhouse gas emissions, high contribution to energy security, climate change mitigation, poverty alleviation through increased economic activity, income generation and diversification, and more investments made in agricultural production systems. Some disadvantages include unintended negative impacts on land, which includes land quality, land tenure, and land rights. There's also unintended negative impacts on water and biodiversity, negative impacts on food security, on market opportunities, and there's high production cost and low production yields. So should awareness be sought for butanol? I believe that awareness should be sought for butanol and its potential utilization as a fuel source for gasoline and diesel engines. When thinking of the advantages of butanol and its prospect of becoming biobutanol, the idea of a healthier environment and the individuals living within such an environment becomes a reality. With any new advancement that presents influential effects, negative ones will surface as well. However, I think with the prioritization of this biofuel and further research being done to decrease the effect of these disadvantages, butanol can and will become a prominent source of energy while also saving the environment around it. So my personal analysis of butanol is I think butanol and its uses should be a study that is continued and funded appropriately. The potential of reducing our carbon footprint, greenhouse gas emissions, and the overall negative impact our actions have on our environment through the use of transportation. I believe that the steps needing to be taken to ensure this possibility becomes an actuality is the presentation and promotion of butanol to other biofuel research studies and financially sound corporations that would be willing to donate an allocated sum of money to further the research of this source of energy. With the focus being shifted onto butanol, I believe there is a definitive future that is not determined by climate change and carbon emissions. So based on my personal analysis of butanol, I came up with a plan of action for the continuation of butanol research and development. So it would begin with presenting butanol and current research to other biofuel research studies, and then gaining support from these studies and sparking an interest in researchers to shift their focus to butanol and development, presenting butanol to outside funding sources and to government-based funding sources. Once funding has been established, continue to research butanol and identify the limitations and potential drawbacks of its utilization within the transportation system. Then make adjustments to the biofuel to target the limitations and minimize their effect on the success of butanol. Implement and promote the final product to affiliated corporations, environmental agencies, and finally the public. Gauge the efficiency and success of the biofuel by tracking greenhouse gas emissions and surveying the population to ensure they are utilizing the source of energy. Based on these results, we would continue to make adjustments to the implementation process and composition of the biofuel to better its success. And finally, here are my resources. I listed all of my resources for the information I gained and for the pictures that I utilized within this presentation. Thank you.